The initial draft of the 28-point plan included points that were not acceptable. So there's still a long way to go.
Russia launched a wave of attacks on Kyiv overnight, killing at least 6 people, and Ukrainian strikes on southern Russia killed at least 3, amid a renewed US push to end the nearly 4-year-long war. US President Donald Trump has been pressing for a resolution to the conflict through a proposed peace plan that would see Ukraine cede territory and limit the size of its military. Trump jolted Kyiv and European allies by initially demanding Ukraine sign the plan before Thanksgiving. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Sunday more time was needed. US Army Secretary Dan Driscoll, who joined the US negotiating team less than 2 weeks ago, met Russian officials in Abu Dhabi for several hours on Tuesday. He is now heading the latest phase of talks over proposed peace terms. Later Tuesday, Europe's Coalition of the Willing, led by France and the UK, will meet to discuss the plan. While they view it as a step in the right direction, the leaders warn it must not allow Russia to resume hostilities later. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy could be visiting Washington in the coming days to meet Trump and discuss the deal. On Monday, Zelenskyy said progress was made during the talks between US and Ukrainian delegations in Geneva. Zelenskyy said the plan now takes many of the right elements into account and that the list of necessary steps to end the war can become doable. At home, Zelenskyy faces mounting pressure. A corruption scandal in the energy sector has triggered a rebellion among lawmakers in his own party, while regular power outages resulting from Russian bombardment have caused anger among the country's public.
Over recent days, I've had detailed discussions with allies. I met the partners of the Coalition of the Willing during the G20, and I've spoken a number of times to both President Trump and President Zelenskyy, who I spoke to again earlier this morning. Mr. Speaker, we're united in wanting a ceasefire and a permanent end to the horrendous suffering that this war has brought to Ukraine. I have always said our aim must be a just and lasting peace. And both of those words, Mr. Speaker, are important: just and lasting. So, Mr. Speaker, I welcome the continued efforts of the United States to end the war and stop the killing. The initial draft of the 28-point plan included points that were not acceptable, but also some very important elements that will be essential for a just and lasting peace. For example, it sets out steps on security guarantees from the US and partners. This is very significant, and the discussions in Geneva took important steps forward, with progress between the US and Ukraine on an updated peace framework. I can reassure the House that work is ongoing. Mr. Speaker, we're clear about the fundamental principles here: that Ukraine's sovereignty must be maintained, that Ukraine should be able to defend herself in future, and that matters about Ukraine and its future must be determined by Ukraine. We are clear their voice must always be at the heart of the process, and elements relating to Europe and NATO will need the consent of Europe and NATO members. So there's still a long way to go and a tough road ahead, but we're more committed than ever